Hello again. Time to go through question 3 now. Thank you to those people who asked me to go through it. Happy to do that. Children from school A and B took part in a fun run, as if running can ever be fun. That's ridiculous. The times to the nearest minute taken by the children from school A are in figure. So if you remember, this is a box plot. We've got the smallest value here. The box is the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the line down the middle. Well, not necessarily the middle, but the line inside the box is the median, and then the whisker extends to the highest value, in this case, the highest value that's not an outlier. And then these 2 points are plotted, and they have been identified as outliers, being uh, so uh, so far away from the rest of the data that we're going to consider them outliers. Write down the time by which 75% of the children in the school completed the run. Well, this diagram is in quarters, so the fastest quarter is here, the next quarter, and then the next quarter. So just read off that value there. Obviously, is it exactly in the middle there? Maybe. So you just read off that value off the grid, whatever that's going to be, 32, 4, 7, 37 minutes, something like that. And state the name given to this value. It's the upper quartile, so it's nothing exciting. If you thought there was some quite complicated thing there, no, it's just the minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and the maximum value and outliers. Explain what the two crosses represent. I've already done that. They are outliers. Interpret these in context. So this is a fun run. These are so slow. Maybe they walked part or all of it rather than running. Just a guess. But they're just so slow compared to the rest that they're considered outliers. So there's a mark for identifying them with the word outlier, and then another for talking about what that could mean in the context. Okay, let's scroll down and see what the next section says. For school B, the least time taken by any of the children was 25 minutes. That's just telling you the minimum, and the longest, 55. And the three quartiles, 30, 37, and 50. So I'm guessing, as they've given us those 5 bits of information that we need for a diagram, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that they're going to want us to draw a box plot. And look, here's some graph paper. But first, excuse me, they want us to work out if there's any outliers. And they actually give us the formula. They should always say in the exam how they want you to work out the outliers, whether that's with quartiles and telling you what amount, what coefficient to use, or if they want you to do it with standard deviation. They should always say. But a pretty standard one is 1.5 times the interquartile range, which is just the upper take the lower quartile, Q3 take Q1, and that's 1.5 times the range above the upper quartile and 1.5 times the range below the quartile. So in order to work out whether there are outliers, then you're just going to put these values in. You're going to put in 30 as Q1, 50 as Q3, and you're going to work out that thing. And if that comes out to be 60, I'm making it up, if it comes out to be 60, then the longest time is inside the range, so there's no outliers. But if it came out to be 54, then you'd know that that 55-minute person was an outlier, and we're not going to have them within the whisker of the box plot. We're going to have a cross as an outlier. And likewise, if we do this one, if we get a value of 20, then again we're fine because 25 is inside that range. It's not smaller than that smallest limit. Whereas if that came out as 28, then the 25 would be an outlier. I'm going to guess, complete guess, but I'm going to guess there's no outliers in this case because it doesn't tell us any other data, and now it wants us to draw the box plot. And so if some of these had been outliers, we'd need to know. I suppose we might not need to know. Sometimes what you do is when you draw the whiskers, you draw them to the limit of the outliers. But I think with Edexcel, what's more usual is that you draw the whisker to the next smallest piece of data rather than to the limit of the outlier. I think that's more usual to do. They haven't told us another piece of data, so if they want us to draw the box plot, these had better be the lower and the maximum values, otherwise we're not going to be able to draw it. So that's my guess. When you do draw it, let's just come back up to the top one. When you do draw it, it's going to look pretty similar to this. The height of these doesn't matter at all. So you could draw this box really big, you could fill the vertical space, or you could draw it really small, just sort of 2 squares or even 1 square high. Makes no difference whatsoever. It's where they correspond to that x-axis. That's what makes it means you can read off the values. That's what makes it a box plot. It is very much a one-dimensional diagram, but of course you need 2 dimensions in order to mark that position as opposed to the next. So yeah, the height of it doesn't matter, the height of the whiskers doesn't matter, as long as these 5 positions are clearly delineated, then you're going to get the marks. That's fine. Anything else to do on this question? Yes. Compare and contrast the two distributions in context. 3 marks. I think that's generous. You wouldn't get 3 marks if it was a real GCSE question. If it was a real A-level question, I think you'd only get 1 or 2 marks. You're going to want to compare an average, so which has the higher or lower median in this case, and you're going to compare a measure of spread, which is going to be the interquartile range. Yeah, you could compare the range, but if you've got the interquartile range, it's far more useful. The interquartile range is a lot more useful because it takes out sort of real extreme values that you might have. So it's far better to use the interquartile range as we've got it. And again, who's got the bigger and the smaller? And crucially, it does say, going down, in context. And even if it didn't say in context, if you don't say and what that means, then it doesn't matter. So what is this again? It is running. Yeah, fun, run. So don't just say they have a higher median. Say on average, this group were faster. Because you've said on average, I'm still obviously referring to the median, so I get the mark because I've said the word average. If you just said this school's faster, you're not talking about an average. So you've got to say on average, and you've got to contextualize it, which is saying, well, what does having a small number mean? What means you're faster? So you've got to make sure you do both. Otherwise, you won't get the marks. Thanks very much, people who asked for a quick rundown of question 3. Hopefully that helps. Thanks very much and see you next time.